Geek Tank Radio, News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Geek Patrol, and our microphones don't have a stun setting. This episode of Geek Tank Radio is brought to you by Scorched Earth Vegetarian Chili. All of the firepower, none of the protein. Laxatives are boring. Clear out your lower decks with Scorched Earth Vegetarian Chili. You know, say what you want, Allan. These vegetarians are hardcore sometimes. So.
Oh, man.
Jeez. Speaking of lower decks, Brandon, can you cover your microphone? So if you're just tuning in. Okay, so I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Brandon Olmsted and Allan Gilbreth. Brandon, you're in the field.
I am on location.
Absolutely.
Where it is.
Brandon's going to give us sort of a field report, you guys. So Allan and I are going to be heading over there as soon as we get off the air here, right? So, Brandon, let's just get into this. We've got quite a bit of other interesting stuff. Allan and I are going to pull the cart the rest of the way, but tell us what's going on at the Covington Comic Con. This is the first year.
Okay, yeah.
$40 value, sir. I mean, that's not a bad thing. You spend $1, you're going to win something. Everybody that spins the wheel gets something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've got 8 t-shirts.
Okay. Well, Brandon, here's the thing, though. You know, because Covington is a good 45 minutes or an hour away from Memphis, and it's a little bit in the outskirts. And we wondered, are people going to make the trek? But it sounds like they are, man. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I talked to one. Of course, I see people.
I was about to say, because they have a clock tower in the middle, right? I mean, they have the courthouse right in the middle of the town square, and looks like some good places to eat. They got food trucks. So, hey, Brandon.
And the DeSoto.
Well,
yeah.
You're in the vendor area, so this is a little different than. And just to be honest, I talked to Josh Mason yesterday. I talked to his brother Jerry Mason, the kicking lawyer, who he's a character. We're gonna get into him in a second, but they've already this thing is going to evolve. This is a year one. The goal with year one is don't burn down the venue. Make sure everybody shows up. Make sure they have a good time and learn from whatever mistakes. So this one is going to be in two locations. So we got about a minute, Brandon, but tell us what's going on there.
All right. So where I'm right at the
Masons are putting it on, you know that. Josh Mason and his brother Jerry, they're cut from the same cloth. Hey Brandon, we're gonna let you go, but we're gonna be meeting up with you shortly. So we'll see you shortly, man. You're listening to Geek Tank Radio here on News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to talk about the 35th anniversary of the movie Labyrinth.
Geek Tank Radio.
I work with a bunch of nerds.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Can't really argue with them there, Allan. And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth and not Brandon. Brandon weighed in a minute ago. Allan, he's on assignment. Well, we're all going to be on assignment, but Brandon I got there last night to set up at the Covington Comic Con, which is taking place today. Folks, get down there. You know, listen, keep the radio on, keep listening to Geek Tank Radio, but get on down to Covington. You can go to covingtoncomiccon.com. Brandon is in the booth. He's manning the booth, representing and taking care of business, and we're going to be joining him there as soon as we're done.
He's over there playing with that law pig.
Yeah,
I know what he's doing.
Yeah, folks, if you're not familiar with Josh Mason, if you are familiar with Josh Mason, you know he's a man of dynamic personality, and it runs in the family, Allan. His brother Jerry is a hoot. He's called the kicking lawyer. He does martial arts and law, which probably comes in, they probably cross over a lot. And he's got a pet pig who's there in the booth with him. Go figure. I mean, it's you know, that alone.
That is awesome. That is completely awesome.
So we'll be heading over there. It sounds like it's packed, Allan. I've been talking to some people about this, and every convention they go to, it's a lot of people showing up.
Well, everybody's pent up and ready. Yeah. I mean, as Brandon will freely espouse, it is almost a religious experience to see people you haven't seen in 2 years.
Yeah.
And the con, you know, when you start going to conventions, of as much as you and I go to them, sometimes we complain about them.
I don't. You do.
But you want to start complaining, don't go. And now you're like, oh, I wish I could be at such and such.
Allan, I've never complained. I have said, I admit, Allan, I will say this freely. I've taken them for granted. In years past, I'm like, oh man, we got another one next month.
Yeah, got another one.
We've
got another
two
one.
this
Got
month.
another one.
And it's like, but it's, now
you're really
I'm
looking
getting
forward
to
to
a
it, right?
And folks, we know there's the Delta variant. We know there's all sorts of things in play. We are moving forward with safe plans to meet at the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, but it just seems like, man, there's a real urge for people to get together.
Yep.
So as long as we can do it, we're gonna do it.
Do it and do it safely. Yes.
So stand by for more. There's going to be regular updates on that.
Oh,
And of course, if you go to the Covington Comic Con, you're going to see our booth. We've got. Allan, we got a pretty full booth. We've got Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention that we're representing. We've got Geek Tank Radio, Tool Talk Radio, and Geeky Side TV.
And Geeky Side TV.
And you could win something. If you spin the wheel, you pay $1, you're going to win something, and you might even win free passes to the convention. You could win a lot of other fun swag.
You can up that value.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Allan, this was kind of funny to me. You were very insistent on this.
Yes.
An anniversary is here, and you insisted that we discuss it, even though I couldn't care less about this movie. In fact,
Awesome.
I'm going to be the antagonist in this situation.
Good.
Just imagine, folks, that I sat down with Allan and said, Allan, what we really need on Geek Tank is a segment where I talk to you for 45 minutes about the Chicago Cubs.
We've done that.
Yeah.
That would have been 2 weeks ago, as I recall.
Yeah, but anyway, but this is the same thing. So and I'm,
No, it's not
I know
the same
there's
thing.
fans.
It's
People
not the
love
same
this
thing.
movie. So
Yes.
why is the movie Labyrinth so groundbreaking or so important
You
in
know
geek
what?
culture?
There you go. That is the right question.
Yeah.
Back in remember the 80s? Remember those things
Greatest
called the Muppets?
decade of this.
Yeah,
of the
well, you remember
century.
we had Muppets?
Yeah. of
Yeah,
course.
remember that Jim Henson guy? Mm-hmm. Well, he and an artist named Brian Froud and several other people, too many to mention, Frank Oz and just everybody, decided they were going to take on fantasy.
So, because up until that time, Allan, we had Sesame Street, we had the Muppet Show, but it was still more or less you thought of them
It was
as
kiddie
kids.
stuff.
Even though the Muppet Show, as we know as adults, is
Well,
like, whoa.
You go back and
Kermit
watch it
said
now.
that.
Yeah, you go like, whoa,
But
piggy.
more or less, and so now it's like, wait, these Muppets can go beyond that.
Well, yeah, and suddenly, Jim Henson had these big ideas and went, what we can do is we can mix humans and Muppets.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
the Muppet Show had already proven, you could have Mark Hamill come out and play with Miss Piggy and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But they wanted to go to the next level. So basically they came up with a turning of, one of those growing up stories. Mm-hmm. Your typical angsty teenager. I can't stand my little stepbrother and I can...
An 80s staple.
An 80s, angsty teenage stuff. Well, and that's no problem there. The fact that they got Jennifer Connelly in basically her breakthrough role is the angsty teenager.
Yeah, because Jennifer Connelly is not
Huge.
that role anymore.
No, she's huge.
Yeah.
She's huge. But this is where she came from. This is where she got those acting chops. And Jim Henson decided, you know what? Let's take on trolls. Let's take on Labyrinth. Let's take on all these fantasy characters, the things that go bump in the night, the goblins.
Yeah.
And he was really sitting around and he was looking at either Rod Stewart or Freddie Mercury and went, those would make the perfect Goblin King.
Okay, because back then, you didn't think of them at all. Well, and Allan, one thing that did happen in the 80s that was sort of interesting where they were taking people, and like you said, Sting, or musicians, and saying, why can't they be in movies?
Why,
And so,
these
why
guys
can't-
do 2-hour shows.
Right.
They do lines. They play with the
They
audience. They
understand
interact.
stage presence. Yeah.
Dolly Parton did 9 to 5.
Right.
Huge success over there. So Jim's kind of like, all right, let's see if we can talk somebody into it. And who did they actually get?
Yeah. Even I
David
know
Bowie.
that. Right.
David Bowie.
Now,
And-
was this his debut? Because he's very theatrical, but I don't remember him doing a lot of movies before that.
Well, he really hadn't.
Yeah.
He was the man who fell to earth, and then he's going to have The Hunger coming up and a few movie roles. But fundamentally, David was a performance artist
Sure.
to the very end. I mean, David has been one of our penultimate rock and roll singers, but if you go back and look at his work, they were all different aspects and characters.
Right.
So, he's been Lord Byron, he's been, Ziggy Stardust, he's been all of these characters. Well, now he's Jareth the Goblin King. And so here we go with this kind of crossover Disney-esque, but yet kind of grown-up movie.
Yeah, because it's got a little violence in there, right? It's got a little action.
Well, it's got some funny stuff like the Bog of Eternal Stench. I mean, come on. If that wasn't your part of the movie, I don't need. It's like, how can you not like this movie? It had 10 minutes all for you.
Yeah, that's true.
It had all these little crazy characters running around, but underneath it was the very serious, you just condemned your brother to death.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was a very serious, teenager. And the whole message behind this movie was, guys, there are repercussions to your wants, desires, and actions. And here's Henson putting forth this massive effort because it's visually very stunning. The characters are crazy.
Does it hold up?
And it has held up amazingly well. You can watch that movie just as well today as you can 35 years ago.
Okay.
And your buddies at Phantom Events are going to... Fathom?
Yeah. Fathom
okay.
Events,
Well, I think you're missing the end. But Fathom Events is going to be replaying the movie at theaters in the middle of September.
By the way, we don't get paid by Fathom Events, but folks, if you want to get in on them, they're fun. You can watch all sorts of random things that they put on, one-off premieres and things like that.
Yeah, they do stuff that you just can't. They do a lot of things that you just can't deliver to 25,000 theaters at once.
Yeah, which is fun.
Niche stuff. Okay, big thing about Labyrinth. It is a big first because the opening sequence has, of course, the owl, and this is way before Harry Potter. Yeah, so you have the big snowy owl that comes flying out across, and that was the first big cinema event at a photorealistic CGI.
Oh, okay, because I thought there was CGI in this as well. So
this was the one where they went, we really want this owl to do all this cool stuff, but we want it to look real. So it did not look like your Nim or a standard cartoon owl.
Wait, this is before Pixar, right?
This is way back.
This is interesting. I didn't think about that part of it, so that is interesting. So they're taking a lot of risks, whoever the filmmaker was.
Jim Henson.
Yeah.
I
didn't know Jim Henson.
Yeah, he spent a ton of money on this.
Okay.
Oh, no. This is all about the imagination of Jim Henson.
Okay.
Again, artist Brian Froud was doing a lot of the goblins. And then there was an army of people bringing this event to life. I mean, this is the golden age of puppeteering, because most everything in this whole series is a puppet of some kind.
Well, and I guess let's face it, Allan, because we had what? So we had the Muppets. They debuted, I believe, in the 60s. They make, right?
Ralph the dog showed up late 60s.
Because I'm just thinking of, if you're talking about momentum. So you have the momentum. So Sesame Street becomes something where every kid is watching it. The Muppet Show, back in the day was a big hit. That was like primetime viewing. So what is that? Jim Henson had a lot of juice at that point.
Yes.
He had a lot of muscle where he could take these risks. So I guess there is a lot of firsts going on.
There's a lot of firsts going on, and here is a true hardcore dyed-in-the-wool fantasy story done in a fantasy style beginning to end.
Yeah.
Didn't make a lot of money in its first release, but this was a catch-on movie. 1986, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have a lot of stuff. If you didn't see the advertisement or you missed it, the movie didn't do all that great in the first round, but when it went to the dollar movies, it became a cult classic.
So Blockbuster probably played a big role in this.
Huge role in this.
It's interesting how that happens. There's a lot of movies like that. It's funny. It's a Wonderful Life did not make money at the box office. Imagine that. It's like you just don't know. So.
But we can't imagine without it.
Yeah. All right, Allan. You've intrigued me a lot more than I intrigue you when I talk about the Cubs. So
it's true.
We're gonna. I think we need to continue this discussion because this is sort of interesting. So I guess we'll see what the repercussions of that are going to be. But also, Allan, we have science, so we don't want to miss that. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. You're listening to Geek Tank Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Geek Tank Radio.
My son returns from a fancy East Coast college, and I'm horrified to find he's a nerd.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Not bad, Maximilian. And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson with my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our buddy Maximilian behind the glass, who's finding us these
Wow. He finally got me. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And if you're just tuning in, you're saying, where's Brandon? Well, Brandon is on assignment. He's at the Covington Comic Con, the first year event in Covington. It's apparently rocking over there. We're going to be heading over as soon as we're done doing our duty here on the air, but it's a lot of fun. If you want to learn more, go to CovingtonComicCon.com and definitely stop by our booth. We're multifunctional over there, Alan. We've got the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention booth. We have the Geek Tank Radio booth. We have the Tool Talk Radio. Well, I'm saying booth. We have the segment. Yeah. And then Geeky Side TV. So it's kind of a multi-purpose. You can spin the wheel for $1, the Wheel of Fate, and you're going to win something, and you might even win a free pass to the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention.
Upscaling that value.
So we'll be heading over there. I can't wait. Sounds like people are eager to get back to the convention season. So, Alan, before the break, you were talking about the 35th anniversary of the movie Labyrinth, who, frankly, I had no interest in this movie, but the more you're reminding me of it, because I haven't watched it probably in 10 years, but it's probably worth giving it a second look, partly because of the groundbreaking nature and just the historic relevance, you could say, because you said there's a lot of things that were introduced here, like the first use of edgy Muppets, CGI, right? David Bowie's kind of a breakout film role for him, right?
It is one of the most memorable.
I mean, when you see the poster, that's what you see.
It is a shockingly memorable image. It is one of those, we've got a number of characters. I'll pick on Ryan Reynolds for a second. He showed up as Deadpool, and we all went, yep, there you go.
So he owned it because he sort of
David Bowie walked out as this character, and you did not look up and say, oh, look, David Bowie's in a movie. You looked up and went, and the Goblin King just walked out onto the floor.
Yeah.
It's just certain characters, certain people that played them at a certain time were lightning in a bottle.
Absolutely. So, well, and I mean, it probably led to a lot of other things because as you're saying that, Alan, when I see David Bowie in other things like The Prestige or just some of these funny, goofy movies like Zoolander or whatever, you just see the character he's playing.
Right.
And it happens to be David Bowie. So, but
you go back and watch one of his avant-garde things like The Hunger, and you really are not seeing David Bowie. He makes a cameo in a Jeff Goldblum movie back in the 80s called Into the Night. And he's a British secret agent, and you really have even though it looks just like David Bowie,
sure, you
really don't get David Bowie. You get weird English secret agent that's probably going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Your mind did not leap to his other roles. You totally went with what he was doing.
Well, I guess I'll have to give it a look, Alan. So, which is more than I can say for you, because no matter how much I talk about the Cubs, you're never going to turn a game on.
No,
you're never going to step foot in really field.
No, see,
I'm a lot more open-minded than you, sir.
No. See, there's a horrible secret there. I used to be a scorekeeper.
Okay. Yeah.
Never again. It's kind of like once you've worked in a pizza restaurant, the magic is gone.
Yeah, you don't want to know how the sausage is made.
That's right.
So, okay. Well, Alan, speaking of how the sausage is made, we're talking. We got to shift gears into science because you pretty much you gave us this tagline. One thing that's good about Alan we have this chat group that we have when we're preparing Geek Tank Radio with me and Alan and Brandon and. You make these, you post these things with a unique title that gets us interested. So this says everything is going to be grown in a lab in the future.
Yep.
Which doesn't fill me with a lot of excitement or joy. But talk to me. So I don't really doubt you in this.
All right, let's start at Star Trek.
Sure.
All right, Captain Picard walks into his living quarters, walks over to the wall, and what does he do?
He gets a cup of Earl Grey tea from the replicator.
But he asked for it.
Right.
So where did the cup finish, the imprinting on the cup, the tea, the Earl Grey, where did that come from?
Well, it's funny. If you watch Star Trek Enterprise, what you learn is it comes from everything, including what goes through the bathroom.
Yes.
Everything gets recycled on the starship, Alan.
And when you run out of the right particles, you got to cook food yourself.
Right.
So in the wonderful world of Star Trek, everything is more or less technically lab grown.
Okay, yeah.
There's no such thing as organic, because when you walk over to a machine and say, dispense this to me, so you are already predisposed. I know the idea of 3D printing a steak doesn't get you going, but I got news for you. It's probably gonna.
Well, I guess, it's like any technology, Alan. I don't want to be the first one out of the gate that has to jump in to the taste test for the lab-grown steak, but,
Okay, well, let's go pick on Alf Farms out of Israel. And they were the ones who announced, hey, we figured out how to grow meat without the rest of the cow. So we can grow it.
Grow meat.
We can grow
like
meat.
On a petri dish or something.
Yeah, well, in a cellular matrix, yes, we can grow meat without the cow.
So theoretically, though, vegans, they could eat this, right?
So
without
it had no face. It never lived. There was no brain. It was never birthed. This was just a ribeye, literally a sample taken from a ribeye used to create a ribeye.
Alan, you're describing the plot for the movie The Island, and we
Yes.
all know what a liar that group was. They were making clones when they said they were just growing,
Right. Well, they were creating an organ farm.
Okay.
All right. So without having to go that far, here's the problem. Jeff Goldblum exhibited this for us in the movie The Fly when he sent the steak, and then they tried it, and it was like awful. It was terrible. Because the replicator, the transfer devices,
it disassembled it and then it reassembled it,
but it didn't understand life.
Right.
All right. So many misadventures later in the movie, it actually figures it out.
Okay.
And then they mess up with the fly, and you get the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say they didn't really figure a whole lot out, Alan. It got worse. Right?
I didn't say add a fly to the mix.
Okay.
But Alf Farms took their growing technology and added to it the infamous word 3D printing.
Yeah.
And now can print you a steak.
Okay. Out of what? See, that's the thing,
meat.
Alan. Something goes in.
It is out of meat.
I think of that Pink Floyd movie, The Wall, Wall, where the kids are marching in and they go down on a conveyor belt and they come out as ground beef or something. Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Something they have to start with something to get to something else.
They started with a cellular matrix, a nutrient auger, and they started with cells, cow cells from like a sirloin, muscular cells.
Cells, like what? They take a literal sirloin steak, stick it in there, blend it up, grow something more.
Yes.
And this is supposed to taste good?
Yes.
I don't know, man.
What we're doing is replication. Okay. Because one ribeye steak can now produce 1,000 copies.
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of like having an original, going to the copier, and now making as many copies as you need.
But it's okay.
All right. But a cow.
We're going in circles. The thing is, Alan, it still has to be made of something.
It is made of meat. It is grown meat. It is cells grown in a nutrient auger. It is grown. Think of it as the process of making yogurt.
Okay.
So now that it's grown, now that it's done, they discovered cow was a little difficult and expensive.
Yeah.
So if you had taken this very first steak and let's say made a hamburger out of it, that hamburger would have cost you $345,000.
Yeah.
It's a little cost prohibitive. However, they discovered that chicken, well, tastes like everything, easy. And you know what? We can grow a lot of it. As a matter of fact, they are now producing over 1,000 pounds a day of laboratory-grown chicken meat.
Well, the chicken's better for you anyway.
Well, just saying that looks like chicken is actually going to hit the market.
See, here's my beef. Alan, I get lectured by my wife because I like to have my Diet Coke. And
Right.
she's like, well, do you know what chemicals are in there? And the
Yes.
Splenda and all the other. Well, how are you going to sell people on this? I mean, you
It's
talk
chicken.
about. I don't know, man.
It's chicken.
Is it chicken?
It's
it sounds
chicken.
Like it's some gel that.
Well,
Coagulates
what
and-
is a chicken? A chicken is a whole lot of grain, worms, and dirt that it ate and digested. Do I need to
Yeah,
tell
I
you
guess
which
that's-
end of the chicken the egg came out of?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Alan. So, you're bringing up, man, you're making me think about a lot of things here. I don't know. It's still going to take, I think it's going to be an uphill battle selling people on this, though,
Nope.
Alan. But, and it's not just that. We're not just growing chickens and beef.
we got
it
more
gets
stuff.
worse. So stand by. You're listening to Geek Tank Radio. You're on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and Alan is going to do more to try to ruin your lunch.
Geek Tank Radio. News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I can relate, Alan. And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth and not Brandon Olmsted. Although Brandon weighed in earlier. He's on assignment. He's over at Covington Comic Con representing us. He's in the Geek Tank Radio and Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention and Tool Talk and Geeky Side TV promotional booth. That's a mouthful. So, but hey, it's a lot of fun over there. Apparently, there is a ton of people showing up.
They're
And,
rocking.
Covington. It's about 45-minute hour drive from Memphis. It's a nice drive. I like taking Route 51 if I can help it. It's kind of cool. You go through. It's a nice leisurely country
pleasant.
road, but it's
Yeah.
4 lanes, so it's
pleasant.
efficient. But you still feel like you're kind of out in the country. So we're going to be there shortly. If you get there, Alan, you're going to meet Jerry Mason, who's Josh Mason's brother. He's the kicking lawyer. I'm holding his comic book here. There's a lawyer with the tie blowing in the breeze with a pig sitting on a hot rod. Looks like a Ford Mustang or something. So, and all of that is factual, right? I mean, he's got his own pet pig.
The dude is the little oinker is at the convention.
Yeah, Whiskey
Whiskey, the log hog,
the log hog.
the law hog. Yeah,
And Jerry said he's going to be signing autographs and signing his comic book, which will be fun. So, but
I mean, guys, you and I were just talking about this off air. We need this.
Oh, yeah.
We need a certain level of chaos and madness and things that make you go, huh?
Yeah.
Without them, we just had 18 months of seriousness.
oh no, we need fun.
We have discovered we desperately need a little craziness and a little madness, and I don't think she really is naturally blue kind of things when somebody goes walking by.
Right.
Does that pig really have a leash on it? Yes, it does.
What's fun about the convention, too, in the convention world, if you're new to this, people, for you and I, Alan, it's old hat, but you walk by something and you're like, did I actually just see that?
Oh,
Is that real, what I just saw?
the 2-year-old in the Flintstones mobile? Oh,
Right.
my gosh. Somebody dressed up their pet turtle as,
Right.
Just pick the topic. You will see it at a convention.
Or did I just have a conversation on an elevator with that celebrity guest? Did I just hang out with John Delancey in the getting my coffee in the morning at Starbucks? Because that stuff all happens at conventions. You'll be crossing paths with the celebrities that you've seen on TV, and all of a sudden it's like, wait.
Well, if you go to the convention, you get to find out one of the Mid-South's favorite topics.
Yeah.
Which one's Allan? Which one's Joe?
Yeah, because folks, it's from across the room you'll have trouble distinguishing. So, but hey, just Allan, before we get into your sort of revolting discussion that we were talking about with cloning our food or
revolutionary,
3D
not
printing
revolting.
or whatever, but I do want to give a kind of a public service announcement here. We're going to be probably giving regular updates from here on out about the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention coming up November 12th. Through 14th. On the downside, let's just get that out of the way. Teachers, we're going to skip Geek 101 this year. We're skipping the field trips. However, we are still doing our in-school workshops throughout the school year teaching students about filmmaking and comic book design. It's called Storytelling in Comics and Film. You can get in touch with us at memphiscfc@gmail to learn more about that. But Allan, our buddy Joel Hodgson and Thunder Rosa and Wayne White, they are standing by. We're proceeding as though everything's going to happen. So we may make adjustments depending on what the CDC tells us about restrictions. But if we're hopeful, it sounds like if you get your vaccines and if if we have to mask up or something, hey, we've been through a lot worse in the last 2 years. We're just gonna try to make this happen. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure we have a really fun convention. And it sounds like the energy and enthusiasm is out there. People want this, so we're going to do our best to make it happen. So, well, one thing that some scientists are trying to make happen and do their best, which I'm not sure I'm a fan, is Allan has been telling us more or less in the future you can pretty much grow everything in a lab. I say grow, 3D print, transform.
Well, you're going to have to grow it first, and then you're going to have to shape it and form it. But yeah.
So when I think of this, Allan, here's maybe you can clear this up for me. When I think of a 3D printer, it really does make me think of like a photocopier. You put plastic or you put some sort of resin or something inside, and it comes out and it prints out a shape of like a statue of Yoda or something like that. Well, when you get into things that are actually something we're going to consume or wood, like you've talked about, you're dealing with cells that I guess we want to have the ability to grow and transform. And managing that sounds very tricky to me. And dicey.
15 years ago, it was very tricky and dicey.
Okay.
And as we've discussed many times on this show, technologies keep changing and adapting, making what we want to do a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, the thought that there is now a company out there making the bold pronouncement that we can print out a rocket, including the metal parts, using their modified 3D printers, and we can print it in one day and assemble it in the other.
Are we talking about a rocket that you would fly in, or are we talking
about
like
rocket that will blast
rocket?
Off and go? Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is this a model rocket or
no? A research rocket, like payload kind of stuff, like put it into the atmosphere, test to see what's going on with the gases, that kind of thing, which would drastically reduce the cost of research, especially in weather forecasting, meteorological, and or since global climate change is a huge topic, we could run tests much more efficiently and for tens of thousands of dollars less per launch.
So there's always a breakthrough which makes things like this happen. And I'm trying to, I guess, if I'm sitting there visualizing the 3D printer, which is kind of what we're talking about here. For one thing, the original 3D printers were pretty slow. So you need something efficient. You need something that...
But they were amazing because we didn't have it before.
Oh, no, I'm all for it. It's just like anything. Like we said with, all technology, it has to evolve. But I'm thinking there has to have been a moment where they went from, okay, instead of just 3D printing plastic or resin, it's time to get organic here. We're going to go buy, and when did... I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. What changed? Like... is it the the inkjet cartridge that now you can suddenly put meat in there or what?
Well, what changed was the comprehension of what we could print inject and what it would do.
You're talking about what the substance would.
Right. So
the chemists are what made this possible.
The biochemist.
Okay.
So so let's pick on one here. All right. Let's just pick on ice cream. Okay. Ice cream is basically nothing more than whey and casein. That's milk. The two basic things.
Okay.
So the whey, the solids, the fats, and the liquid that supports these fats. There's a variety of other chemicals and hormones and stuff involved in any form of milk.
Right.
But fundamentally, milk comes down to curds and whey.
Okay.
So you got the liquid, you got the stuff that turns
Mary
solid.
quite contrary was onto something.
Well, the little Bo Peep and, eating her curds and whey. And,
it's Bo Peep. Okay.
Yeah, well, all of them had a little to do with this. Well, milk is basically an animal byproduct.
Yeah.
Well, it could also be made by other living things like yeast. could produce a milk substance or a milk-like substance. We can get this same product now from almonds. We have almond milk. We have soy milk. So we're developing different ways of getting to the same product.
Yeah, but I've had goat milk, Alan.
Yeah.
That's what they served in Italy, and I didn't like it. It was like watery to me. I didn't like it. So all milk is not.
But man, I
equal.
love me some goat cheese.
Well, I don't even like that. But anyway, I'm just saying. So
you haven't had dinner at my house in a while.
Yeah, no kidding. One type of milk though is not like the other, right?
No, but we can reproduce these.
You keep saying we too, Alan, which makes me even more concerned because I haven't even brought up what Vladimir Putin's going to do with this stuff and how he's going to weaponize.
All he's going to do is eat it.
See, I'm just thinking, Alan, because when we look around today, this is an example of my family. Both of my boys are taller than me.
Right.
Kids, I'm convinced, are way taller than they were even 15
better
years
nutrition.
ago.
Yeah.
Well, what if we start, filling these things full of proteins and everything? The kids are going to be 12 feet tall if we don't watch
Joe,
out.
we're giants compared. You and I are giants compared to 100 years ago.
Well, it's funny you say that, Alan, because when I've gone to like the Pink Palace Museum, where you go to some and they show like this is the uniform of General such and such, and you're like, this looks like something my daughter would have worn.
The brute of such and such of Siberian Russia, and you're looking at it, and he was 5'3".
Right.
He couldn't have weighed more than 160 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you and I compared to everybody but George Washington, we're giants compared to what used to be.
Yeah.
And we're not that
just
big.
average size. So
we're average size guys these days.
I don't know, man.
So get ready for this. All right. Well, let's step off of food for a minute and let me make you feel a little better.
Okay.
How about let's go for political calm in the world? Let's reduce the price of something that's precious.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a diamond.
Okay, I thought you were going to talk about something we actually. Okay.
Well, let's talk about a
Well,
diamond.
I guess we need that.
Well, let's talk about a diamond because diamonds are a hot commodity. They're traded all throughout the world, and there's a lot of political unrest over where they come from.
Okay, but Alan, they're valuable because of their scarcity and their rarity. If you can just crank this out on your
That
3D
is
printer, who cares?
correct, sir. They are nothing but pure carbon.
Okay, so you're going to eliminate the.
So the De Beers company's not going to be real happy about it, but you know what? We could. Or how about, let's say, when you get scheduled for that hip surgery? Oh, wait, that was me.
Yeah.
And they need blood.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. How about let's grow it
Okay.
to match you?
I wish Brandon were here. I feel outnumbered, and Maximilian, you've been no help. You haven't weighed in. I need his input. Alan, this is a conversation.
Maximilian is looking at you as his future donor.
No, this conversation is going to continue, Alan, and so
All
we'll.
right. I'll take it to this. How about the mechanical DNA imprint and print your own Mercedes?
Yeah, you're not selling me, Alan. Folks, by the way, we were a little remiss. I just want to remind everybody, this week was the series climax, the wrap-up episode of The Bad Batch. We are definitely going to weigh in next week. We haven't forgotten, and it was the debut of the first episode of What If with Captain Carter, and we're going to weigh in on that. So expect regular reports on that. We're not shirking our duties, but we definitely want Brandon in on that conversation. So Brandon or Alan, we want to remind everybody we're scooting out of here, and we want to see you at Covington Comic Con. We'll be there. Mm-hmm. We want to shake your hand. We want to thank you for listening to Geek Tank Radio. But unfortunately, we're out of time, sir. So until next week, we are the Geek Patrol, and I am Joe Thorderson.
And I am Alan Gilbert, reminding you to like our Facebook page, or you too can be laboratory grown.